everybody. Today we're going to go over a couple different types of filaments that are out there that you can choose for your 3D print job. Let's get started. The first one is PLA. PLA is the most common filament that the people get. You choose. The Creality is an excellent filament. We have it on our website at eurohome.com, and it is really good quality. I've got great prints with it, don't have any problems with it tangling, nothing, no clogging. It's a really great filament. It is the standard that you will probably use for most of your prints. Most of the prints that I have, like for the Eurohome bit holder, different types of things. Some of the coasters is PLA. For my standard is pretty much the PLA is what everybody goes to. There's actually a couple of other kinds. There's actually a silk PLA, there's the copper PLA, different things, whatever you want to do. One thing I want to mention though is with the different types of PLA, you're going to have different heat settings for your nozzle and for your bed. So definitely pay attention to that. You know, not all of them are equal. For example, one of them that we have here is, you can see this coaster, it's actually a wood filament. It's a PLA wood filament. It has like a percentage in it, and you know, it gives you recommendations. Almost all of them have recommendations on what to print at. But after I'm done printing it, I'll see the difference, and you should definitely do test prints. That I would then have different than what they recommend. So I always note it on my spools so that the next time I print with it, that it's going to be, hopefully, it'll work fine. Same thing with the silk PLA. So the PLA is going to be the common that you would choose for most of your products. If you want, get an inexpensive brand to just do testing with, but make sure that, if you start having bad prints or having problems, in that you could have a problem with the type of filament that you have, or the brand of filament rather. So another one is PETG, which is common for more rigid products. It's a more durable filament. It's kind of standing up to ABS. ABS is another filament that you can get. It's supposed to be really strong, like PVC almost, I guess, but it's really difficult to print with. I've never personally tried it myself, but only because I hear of all the nightmares. But the PETG I hear is standing up pretty good to that. It has a much higher temperature rating. You definitely have to print with a higher temperature. You definitely have to have your bed higher temperature. There's a bunch of different settings, but it will stand up better. Like for example, I actually printed these handles for the bed of my printer, of my 3D printer, and I chose to do PETG because it's really strong and it will withstand the heat of the bed, over and over again. One thing to note though is when you do supports on your prints, the PETG is okay to take. I'm sorry, the PLA is okay to take off, but the PETG is not so easy. One thing that I could give a little bit of advice would be after I'm done printing it, while it's still warm, try and take them off then. If not, you could place it in some really hot water for, 10 to 15 minutes, 20 minutes till it kind of warms up a little bit. It might be a little bit easier, but you'll find that it's much tougher, which is good for applications that you may want, tougher filament for. Example is these keychains. We're doing these keychains, and these are PLA. This one is PETG, and you can actually just see the difference in it this is PLA and this is PETG, and you can see the difference is definitely not as strong, whereas these, you definitely want them pretty strong, and that's what we were doing with the same thing here, another PLA, or PETG. So those are the few different things. Another thing I would recommend doing is when you get your spool of PLA, or if you get your spool of PETG, if you'll notice, I probably have more than 20 different types of filaments, colors, PLA, PETG, PLA Plus, PLA Silk. So what I do is, if you see my little kitty cats here, I recommend printing a cat for each one of the filaments you have. And the reason why is because, one, that'll kind of be like your test print, and you can see The temperature, you can start with the recommended settings of them and see the temperature of it, how it prints and so forth. Plus you have, a collection of the different colors and materials that you have. You may notice that you'll print the silk, the PLA copper here, and it doesn't print good or it's having a problem. And then okay, let me try and heat it up, and you're not wasting your print job and getting frustrated. This one actually printed great. TL did not come out that great, but it actually printed good. Then I have some that did not print good, like this green. It was kind of all messed up there in the top. So that's why I recommend, if you get one, print a kitty cat with it first, kind of get a feel for the temperature of it, write it down, and then you'll have a collection of the different colors that you have. So another thing I want to go over with you is the flex filament. There is a flex filament like they use for like shoes and soles and stuff like that, and I definitely recommend getting one of the Eurohome dryers. And that's the reason why is because the flex filaments are very, very susceptible to moisture, and they must be kept dry. If they're not dry when you print them, what's going to happen is when you're printing, there's going to be little bubbles coming out, and it's going to only be like a little bit of filament. You have little bubbles in between, and it's going to be a mess, and you're going to have a headache, and you're going to get all aggravated. But TPU is the flex filament. There's different types of it. I actually have TPU, then I have Flex 98. Flex 98 is gloss. Actually, Flex 98 is what they use for shoes. I actually made some lifts, I'll show you, but most importantly, as you can see, it's just, it's just very flimsy. So you're going to want to keep this dried. I absolutely recommend getting one of our filament dryers. The reason why is because when you go to print, you're going to want to make sure this is dry. So what I normally do is, if I'm going to be printing tomorrow, I'll put it in here and turn it on. It has a really beautiful digital display on the front here, and turn it on and keep it on for about 6 hours, 8 hours maybe. Doesn't hurt to get it nice and dry. When you're not using it, I use the storage bags from Eurohome also. The storage bags, I keep all of my flex in all the storage bags, because again, you don't want it to be, all taking up all the moisture and then trying to put it here and dry it and back and forth and back and forth. That's just not the best way to go if you're really looking to not have a headache with this. I don't keep my PLAs in the bag. It's just a preference. My PETGs I don't keep in a bag. My wood nozzle or my wood filament I do keep in a bag. There's certain things that you're going to find that are going to give you trouble, and how you'll know is when you're trying to print with them and it's just little bubbles, or it's just not coming out, or it's not enough filament coming out and almost looks like a club. It's probably because it's moisture. And the best thing I would say is if for some reason you're trying to print with this and you're having a problem with it, just take it, put it in the filament dryer and leave it running for 6 hours, or put it on, for however long, and then leave it in there and then turn it on. Another nice feature of this is we have a little hole here that you can actually feed the filament through. There's rollers on the bottom of this, and so you can actually just leave the filament in the box if you want to, and it'll pull it right out of that. So that's another feature that I personally don't do that, but if I thought I had a problem with it, the availability is there for it. So there's also a hole up top here. So those are the main types of filaments that you'll get. Another thing I want to mention to you is a temp tower. So sometimes I have some issues with printing, and you're like PETG is a real pain. It may work great on this machine, it may not on this one for whatever reason. So you can go on thingiverse.com, and I'm going to put 2 links here in the description of the place to get these, and well, actually just a Thingiverse. And what it is a temp tower, and it changes your temperature from one temperature low to a high temperature, and then you can actually see your print when it's done. If you see stringing in the middle here, or if you're having problems with it, or any type of imperfections, you'll notice it. But where it looks best, it's going to tell you the best temperature, which is going to usually be around 200 to 210. Usually between 190 to 210, rather, depending on the filament you have. And so you might want to get a temp tower, and that will actually help you. If when you first get your machine, it would not hurt to print a temp tower and a kitty cat, honestly, to do the to make sure that you have your settings correct for the specific filaments. Again, the TPU filament, you can see it's actually very flexible, and then these are actually the soles for the bottom of a shoe, or the lift for the bottom of a shoe. So that's pretty much it for the filaments. Again, again, to keep all of your TPUs dry, that's really super important. Print some test prints. You may, if you find that you're having a lot of problems with it sticking to your bed, you know, all the filaments are different. Make sure your bed is leveled. Try re-leveling your bed over and over again. Sometimes I have to use glue stick, put it on there. It really depends. It depends on what you're printing and how you're printing it. And I do have actually a tough time, like with the wood PLA sticking to my bed, but it's just unfortunately the nature of the beast. It is what it is. And you know, that's why it takes you got to print your test prints and practice and so forth. So if you have any questions, feel free to let me know, and hopefully I'll be able to answer them for you and get you going with whatever you're trying to get your print with, and I can help you with some different filament ideas and some different places that we get them. But definitely the Creality filament, like I said, is one of the best. I would order the dryer box. I would order the bags, get some Creality filament, and it doesn't hurt to take care of it, of your filaments. So that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know, and have a good day. Jungle.